Hi YouTube, it's Mo here again. I want to thank everyone who's viewed my previous two videos of the 41 and the 42 standard. Today we have a couple special models, some of my favorites, the 42A and the 42AS. They're essentially the same as a 42 except for the anodization. These have a Weehawk style blade and have skeletonized investment cast titanium. They're pretty thin, these models, and they only weigh 4.1 ounce, so they're perfect for flipping. This one is a more bluish than purple hue. Now, I want to mention that on the first production and the pre-production, as you have here, this is a pre-production and this is a first production, you have the similar flat screws. So they're flat screws, and they change. So these were changed in later models. They heat treated, and I'll grab another one here to show. They heat treated them. You see, they're larger. So what they did was they heat treated the pivot screws and made them larger in future models. So that went for the 42 standard as well, as I mentioned in the previous video. That's the difference on the pivot screws. And the reason I have so many here today is because of the different markings and whatnot. But all these are essentially, the plain edge and the serrated, very much similar, but they do have different steel markings and different steel types as well. So this one here was 440C, but they don't mention it here. They just mentioned Benchmade USA, and future models, they changed that. So that's why I have those two. So this one just says Benchmade USA. It was an earlier one, no 42 under the butterfly, as you'll see in succeeding models. So this one here is the same as this one, but you notice one is an electric blue and the other is more purple, very much more purple. So big difference, and that's the reason I'm collecting this other one as well. As you know, I'm a crackhead when it comes to collecting every single variation. I was going to sell one of these, but I didn't have the heart to be honest. I have enough to sell anyway. So check me out on Moebalisong on Instagram. You won't be disappointed. I do have some of these for sale from time to time, and they don't come up often. They're very hard to find. These retail for $180 in 2001 when they came out. They were $10 more than the 42 at that time. So these were very cheap when they came out, but no one collected back then, and everyone flipped them and beat them up. So they're hard to find in this condition. They're hard to find in any condition, but especially in this condition with the box and just minty. So that's the difference with these two. That's the only one that is really the same exact, has the same markings and the same steel type, and it was really the same knife, it's just a different color. And if I wasn't so fanatical about collecting different variants, I would probably sell one of those. So next we have 42 with the 42 under the butterfly. So previous ones didn't have it. You see here, even these ones here, none of these had the 42 under the butterfly. So I made it a habit of keeping this one as well when I noticed, hey, this one has the 42. And if you saw my previous video on the 42 standard, you know that the 42 was added later. I think possibly, and don't quote me on this, but possibly to deter counterfeits, or maybe to the perception of counterfeits, because people thought, hey, no 42, is that a fake? But they just added that later. None of these are fake, of course. Anyway, so that's a 42 with the 42 under the butterfly, and that's the reason that's different. Next, we have a 42 under the butterfly as well, 42A, but this one is stamped 440C. So this was a later variant, so it actually stamped the 440 on it. But you notice a difference here. So these were all T-latches. Actually, these are all T-latches, even the AESs. The reason this is different, this has a spring latch. Now, the spring latch on the 42A is incredibly rare. I think I paid over $1,000 for this one, by the way. These are hard to find. I had one other over the last 3 years that I sold. You don't find these often. The spring latch, they made very few of the spring latches. So this is not only marked 440C, but the other uniqueness about it is the spring latch. So if you do see the 42A spring latches come up, you won't, it'll be incredibly rare to see it, so you should buy it if you have the opportunity to. This one is a favorite of mine. I actually prefer the T latches for flipping. They're thinner. They feel better in hand. They're better flippers, as many flippers in the community would attest to. But in terms of collectability, the spring latch is incredibly rare and more desirable, at least to me as a collector. And I would always buy the spring latch before the T latch, because I know the T latch comes up from time to time and the spring latch does not. So those are the 6 plain edge 42As that I have. I'm really not missing any of the plain edge 42As. I am missing one 42AS spring latch. So I do have the 42AS, that's anodized serrated, that's what it stands for. And this one here is a T-latch, same Weehawk blade, everything's exactly the same. This one is a first production 459 of 500, no 42 under the butterfly. So this one is just serrated. And I like the serrated, and they're harder to find. I could tell you that after fiending over these for many years. You don't see these often. But the desirability lays with the plain edge one. This one is a 42 AS with the 42 under the butterfly, and it is not a first production. It's just the Benchmade USA. So this is a very early one with no blade markings. So again, Weehawk blade, this is about a 4-inch blade, a little over 4-inch. I think they include the tang, it's 4.2 or so. It weighs 4.1 ounce with the latch, skeletonized cast, and titanium. It is a beautiful anodized knife. Anyway, so those are all the 42As and the 42ASs I have. Again, I'm only missing one. That's the 42AS spring latch. If anybody has one of those, I would definitely pay good money for it. Please reach out to me on Moebalisong on Instagram. That's Moebalisong. Hit me up there. I'm happy to answer any questions too if you have. Do check out my listings, because I do sell from time to time. And I want to thank everyone again for the encouragement. It really does help move forward with showcasing these 4X in the proper light. I hope in the proper light. These aren't professional videos, but I'm trying my best to make somewhat presentable videos. So thank you so much for watching.